Dolan, you're like so zoned out.
He's like amused.
Are you
but
drunk?
Not amused.
Nope, I'm good.
Oh. Okay.
I'm just
He wants us
letting
to be better.
I'm just letting this go because I'm thinking like this is going to be the intro.
Healthcare horrors. Murder. Welcome back to another episode of
Healthcare horrors.
Murder.
I'm Alicia Carosella, your veteran recruiter.
I am Ashlee Boyce, a brand specialist.
And I'm Dolan, also a brand specialist, but today I just do knob stuff.
Knob guy.
Yes. So last time we talked about Michael Swango. He kind of jumped around all over the world to get away from the FBI and prevent himself from being caught for murder, but he didn't win.
You gotta do what you gotta do, but you know, when you want to get caught.
It's one way to see the world. He went to Zimbabwe and then where else? Saudi Arabia. What did you say?
Yep, and
then he went to Europe. And
He tried everything to swingo his way out of it.
he swang
thank you.
go-goed.
Thank
He
you.
swingo-goed.
Thank you,
away.
guys. Where was this energy last time? You're making fun of me.
We were caught off guard. We bought into it now.
Okay, I'm glad. This makes me happy. Oh, man.
So if you haven't listened to that episode and you want some more of that energy, go back to the last episode.
If you want some bad dad jokes, which usually I'm not
dad
a fan
jokes.
of. Oh, good dad jokes. Okay. I mean, good bad dad jokes?
All dad jokes are bad,
True.
right?
Yes.
So there's some good ones and then there's like
It's all bad.
But don't shut the episode off. Just bear with us till the end.
Listen, we try so hard
We do.
to entertain you.
We're doing this against our own free will.
I know, I'm handcuffed to this chair right now. Let me out of here.
Oh, man. So who are we talking about today?
H Holmes.
There's a lot of moving pieces on this guy, but
Yeah, so bear with us. We might be a little bit back and forth.
yes. But yeah, he was one of the first claimed serial killers in America. So that is kind of neat in a way.
One thing I like about, before we get into H Holmes, really is, like, people think he's Jack the Ripper. Like, they've theorized that he's Jack the Ripper. I mean, yes, no, maybe so. There was no way to keep track of who was ripping what and killing who back then, but... So,
Jack the Ripper was a female. I'm just kidding. I don't know. That's one theory.
that would be pretty cool.
Whew.
We are going to talk about H Holmes. His original name is Herman Webster Mudgett. He was born May 16th, 1861, question mark. Because
That's also what I have, so it must be true.
Yeah, so that's a good guesstimate. So
Whoa.
why don't you just pay attention to this podcast?
I'm sorry.
Dolan?
Are we not
Are we-
interesting?
No. I was just looking some stuff up and had Instagram open and video on Instagram. Just, automatically
He was doing
plays.
his research on Instagram.
Yes, I was.
Anyway, so H Holmes is a Taurus. They're known for being logical, stubborn, somewhat grumpy, and inclined toward materialism. So he was born in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, and he was born into a wealthy family and showed signs of high intelligence from an early age. H Holmes was always interested in medicine. He allegedly trapped animals and performed surgery on them as a child, and some accounts of his life even suggest that he killed a childhood playmate, but there is not really any proof of that. Mudgett, H Holmes, attended medical school at the University of Michigan, where he was a mediocre student. I like how he goes from like this really brilliant, smart guy to just like average.
Yeah. I think I have more on his childhood.
So do I.
Oh, okay.
We're
cool.
getting there.
Okay.
Listen, my research happens at the last minute, so whatever order it turns out to be in, it's a surprise for all of us. So, And anyways, so he was a mediocre student there. When he was backtracking to Gilmanton, New Hampshire, his parents were Levi Horton Mudgett and Theodate Page Price. I don't know how to say her name. But both were descended from the first English immigrants in the area. H Holmes was his parents' third-born child, and he had an older sister named Ellen, an older brother named Arthur, and a younger brother named Henry, and a younger sister named Mary. His father was from a farming family, and at times he also worked as a farmer, trader, and house painter. And his parents were devout Methodists. Let's see. At the age of 16, Holmes graduated from Phillips Exeter Academy and took teaching jobs in Gilmanton and later nearby in Alton. On July 4th, 1878, he married Clara Lovering in Alton, and they had a son named Robert Robert Lovering Mudgett, who was born on February 3rd, 1880, in Loudon, New Hampshire. Robert became a certified public accountant and served as city manager of Orlando, Florida. So, back to when Robert was little. His dad, H Holmes, enrolled in the University of Vermont in Burlington at the age of 18, but he was dissatisfied with the school and left after 1 year. In 1882, he entered the University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery and graduated in June 1884 after passing his exams. When he was enrolled, he worked in the anatomy lab under a Professor William James Herdman. He was then the chief anatomy instructor, and the two were said to have been engaged in facilitating grave robbing to supply medical cadavers.
Yeah.
Do you have anything more on that?
I mean, just that, the students in medical school and stuff, they have to learn somehow, and like having bodies donated for this or whatever, like coming across cadavers was hard. So yeah, doctors would go to cemeteries, also known as body snatching, and they would dig up graves and steal bodies for medical research. And Holmes accompanied doctors on this.
Holmes had also apprenticed in New Hampshire under Nahum White, a noted advocate of human dissection. Years later, when Holmes was suspected of murder and claimed to be nothing but an insurance fraudster, he admitted to using cadavers to defraud life insurance companies several times in college. Back to his married life, his housemates described him as treating Clara violently, and in 1884, before his graduation, she left him and moved back to New Hampshire, and later wrote that she knew little of him afterwards. So, after he moved to Moores Forks, New York, a rumor had spread that Holmes had been seen with a little boy who later disappeared. Holmes claimed that the boy went back to his home in Massachusetts. No investigation took place, and Holmes quickly left town. So, then, kind of weird, right? Like,
yeah, it's just a weird random little tidbit.
Also, how do you know he went back to his home in, what was that, Michigan? Massachusetts?
Yeah, how?
Massachusetts. Yeah, too weird. When you know too many details like that, like it's too specific, like it's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1886, Mudgett moved to Chicago and took a job as a pharmacist under the name Dr. H. Holmes, or Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. He was the subject of more than 50 lawsuits in Chicago alone.
Oh, is
Bing
that
bong.
me? Bing bong. Sorry, I was reading through my notes really quick about one of his, first scams. And I was trying to figure out if it was in New York or if it's in Chicago. I think it was when he was still in New York. Yeah, because it was a small town and there was a smallpox outbreak. and he tricked residences into getting vaccinated by saying that it was mandated. So he charged 25 cents. Like, he went door to door to these people's homes and charged 25 cents, which today would be about $6, I think.
Scam artist.
Yeah, so lots of insurance fraud. So when he moved to Chicago, he decided to put on a new persona, and he cleaned up his appearance, started dressing better, just to gain trust from potential patients or investors. And he got married again to Myrta Belknap, I'm gonna go with Belknap, in 1886. He started stealing from a struggling pharmacy in order to drive their business to the ground, and so he could buy it himself. So that was very rude. After many scams, he also bought the land. I don't have like a whole bunch of notes on all of his scams and insurance fraud and everything like that. We're here to talk about more of the murder. So
I was going to say that's not what the people want.
So after a bunch of scams and, getting money somehow, he bought the land across from the pharmacy to build a 2 to 3 story building, which will become known as the famous Murder Castle. He was constantly dodging debtors and scheming investors. So far, he was, for the most part, pretty nonviolent, but his employees knew he was an oddball. In 1889, Myrta, his wife, had a daughter, Lucy, but he began cheating on her with one of the cashiers at the pharmacy named Julia, and Julia also had a daughter named Pearl. So this is where it starts getting a little bad. Julia gets pregnant, and of course they want to hide their affair. So she meets Holmes at the pharmacy, and he tells her he's going to give her an abortion. But Holmes has different plans, and he ends up killing Julia, as well as dissecting her and just experimenting with her body a little bit, because even as a child he had a weird fascination with dead bodies, and that started with like the small animals and everything. So he was also bullied a lot, and one of his least favorite places, like many children, was the local doctor's office. But one of his first introductions into like the medical field was he was like lured into the local doctor's office somehow, and the bullies rigged a skeleton to like lunge at him. So it's kind of terrifying for a kid, and that was obviously traumatizing for him, and
really made an impression.
Yes.
And he took this in a very extreme direction.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, he kills Julia, and then sadly he does also kill Julia's daughter, Pearl, and I believe he just poisons her. So he tells Julia's neighbors, she lived in an apartment, so he tells the neighbors and her family that she just went out of town, because I guess this was like around Christmas or something, and Julia was already talking about going out of town anyway, so it just worked out perfectly.
Convenient.
Yes. And then he decides to rent out her apartment, which I feel like that would get you caught, if her neighbors start seeing new people coming and going, but it's a way to make money, so he rents out her apartment. He also has been trying to patent his own medicine in order to make money, but I guess that's very hard to do even back then. So Emmeline Sigrand, a 24-year-old typist, is swept off her feet by Holmes, and he starts another affair, despite the fact he does have another wife and child. Emmeline doesn't care. She sadly falls into the same fate as Julia, so there's a pattern there. Meanwhile, the construction of this 2 to 3 story building has been underway. I thought this was kind of interesting. So in the middle of construction contracts, he would fire a construction team and bring in a new construction team, so nobody would really know the true layout of this building. So he has secret passageways, two-way mirrors, trap doors. Later, they find out that there's like vats of acid or like a crematorium room, gas chambers. Yeah, so there's, and like, I don't know how you get away with, how do you buy this stuff and just put it in a building and like no one asks questions? But it is in the 1800s.
Because they're getting paid.
Right. And he also, like, he says that it could be used, yeah, it's like part apartment, part hotel, and there's the World's Fair that goes on in Chicago. So he like lures in travelers and stuff into this place. So it's, you know, people go missing. I don't know. He just gets away with it that way. So that's the murder castle. Secret passageways filled with stolen goods, staircases, doors, torture chambers, chutes. He has another new mistress, Minnie Williams. He marries her, even though he is still married. So it's technically not a real marriage, but Minnie thinks it is. After the stress, this is stupid, after the stress of basically living two lives, Holmes plans to kill Minnie and her sister Nanny in 1893 of July. So it doesn't last very long. And he's like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm just gonna off her. What did you expect?
I think he just likes to kill people.
Yeah.
And that's really it. Like, he didn't care. He was like, cool, another person who trusts me that I can kill. Great.
Eventually, I don't know exactly how long his murder castle stands for, but he does eventually burn it down.
He burned it down in 1893, same year.
Okay. And of course, he wants to collect the insurance money on it.
But I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either.
Because I think he gets in trouble.
Yeah, I think there's like some sort of suspicion around the fire, and he doesn't. Or even if he does, it's not much.
Yeah, so what happened was he was arrested for the insurance fraud for the fire at his home and was soon released. So then he concocted a scheme with an associate named Ben Peitzel.
Oh, yeah.
To defraud an insurance company by faking Peitzel's death. So then they're just doing more insurance fraud, and
gotcha.
Then he gets arrested for that too. So,
well, meanwhile, guess what, you guys? He has another new mistress.
Just give it a rest, my dude.
Georgiana Yoke. She's 24. And she goes with Holmes to Texas. And therefore, he leaves Murda and his daughter Lucy.
That's for the best. Murda and Lucy just need to be left alone.
Get out of it.
Kind of funny that her name is Murda. Murder.
Look at you go.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually worked with a dude, and he was a rapper, and his rapper name, stage name, was Murda Mike.
Murda Mike.
Oh man,
Murda Mike.
That's clever.
He's gotta be tough.
So clever. Murda Mike on the mic.
Yeah.
Murda Mike Swingo.
Oh my god. Okay. So, H Holmes and Georgiana go to Texas. The reason they go to Texas, I don't think they're there for very long. So his other past mistress, Minnie, that he killed, he wants to steal her inheritance. Apparently she has a lot of money, or did. So they go to Texas with the intent to, steal her inheritance and property, scamming, blah, blah, blah. In July 1894, he ends up going broke again, and he and Georgiana have to flee. And like we mentioned, now they are also friends with a man named Benjamin Peitzel. Mm-hmm. Is that how you said it? Peitzel?
Peitzel.
Pretzel?
Yes.
I'm not sorry for anything I said earlier.
What are you looking at, Dolan? Do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay. All right.
He's just ignoring us again.
No, I'm looking up some Murda Mike.
Priorities.
Give him all the likes and thumbs ups and the hearts.
What?
I gotta go.
Okay. They're friends with Benjamin Peitzel, who is also a con artist. And they agree to a scheme to collect life insurance money using a cadaver similar to Peitzel's. I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but it's okay.
It's Pitzel. So
Yeah.
it's
Peitzel. There.
Pite?
Okay.
Zell.
We'll go with it. Of course, H Holmes agrees to this, but he has a different idea in the back of his mind.
He does.
Dun, dun. They decide to kill Benjamin Peitzel for real and make it look like an explosion in a laboratory. So there was no need to find a cadaver that looked like him because they just used the real thing. In case you didn't catch that. What?
We had a bunch of silly juice today. Man.
Dolan, you're like so zoned out.
He's like amused.
Are you
but
drunk?
Not amused.
Nope, I'm good.
Oh. Okay.
I'm just
He wants us
letting
to be better.
I'm just letting this go because I'm thinking like this is gonna be the intro.
He's singing, this is a really bad idea to have them do this podcast. We need to find different hosts.
100% what he's thinking. Anyways, so we
collect
use
myself.
the real Peitzel's cadaver because he's really dead.
Yes. So Holmes and Georgiana tried skipping town to St. Louis, where they do skip town, and they go to Benjamin's family's house. So they want to, God, now I just like hear the radio and I keep focusing on that. So they go to Benjamin's house because they need the family to identify the body in order to gain the life insurance money. But H Holmes is worried that the family would catch on to the scheme. So he lets Mrs. Peitzel into the scheme and creates the illusion that her husband is alive, and if she complies, then she will be rich and
He's going to give her $500.
they will all get away with it. Surprisingly, this works. Mrs. What?
I just read something. Just keep going.
Ooh, what is it? Do you need to say it now or later?
I mean, I could say it now. I just...
Does it go with the story?
Yeah.
Okay, what you got?
He killed 3 of Peitzel's kids.
Okay, we're going to
Peitzel's
get to
kids.
that.
I know, but I didn't... Listen, I didn't know.
Oh,
I was shocked.
gotcha. Yeah.
You shouldn't have invited me to share what I read.
We can cut that out in post-production. Okay.
Nope.
Oh, man. Okay, so, and apparently Mrs. Peitzel is, like, aware that her husband is a bit of a con artist. So I think that's why she just kind of goes along with this. So Mrs. Peitzel, still believing her husband is alive, agrees to travel with her children and H Holmes to a quote-unquote safe house. H Holmes keeps the mother and her several children separated. You said 3 children?
So there's 5 children.
Okay.
But he killed 3.
Yeah, he keeps them all separate because it's obviously going to be easier to kill them if they are not all together. So he tells Mrs. Peitzel that the son is left with Minnie somehow. There's just like a lot of confusing moving parts in this particular incident. But he does kill Peitzel's son, and he does eventually kill the 2 teenage daughters. He poisons them and buries them. Let's see. November 17th, 1894, Holmes does get arrested. Okay, did you have anything more, like, before he gets arrested?
Well, the only thing I'll add is that there's a person he met in jail when he was arrested for fraud prior named Marion Hedgepeth. And he's the career criminal who agreed to help H Holmes in the insurance scheme with Peitzel. And insurance investigators were alerted to the fraud related to Peitzel by Marion Hedgepeth.
Crazy.
The guy who set him up to help him with this. And this is how H Holmes gets arrested.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I didn't
So
know
maybe
that
he
part,
didn't
yeah.
pay him or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. But I just know, like, during this whole thing, he, like, takes Mrs. Peitzel and her children, and he's like, yes, we're gonna go be reunited with your husband. But they kind of just, like, keep hopping around, and, like, every place they stop at, he, like, basically plans to kill all of her kids. Yes, he only kills 3 of them. So he eventually gets arrested. November 17th, 1894. He's arrested in Boston, and turns out the authorities were following him, so they were on his trail. October 1895, he does get sentenced to be hanged after the trial, and they find the bodies of the Peitzel daughters since they were just buried in Toronto. So apparently they were like cruising Canada, unless there's a different Toronto.
No, I doubt it, but jeez.
Yeah, so they find their bodies, and they were following him, so they know that he was in that area. Eventually, H Holmes confesses to 27 murders. He still wanted more infamy, even after, being caught. To me, he was more of a businessman than a doctor, really. I know we're talking about a lot of healthcare professionals, and he was more into schemes and insurance fraud and everything, but
he was a pharmacist.
yeah,
so
he was a pharmacist.
he counts.
He counts. He dove into the medical field a little bit, stealing dead bodies for medical research and stuff.
Poisoning people.
Yeah.
So yeah, he did confess to 27 murders, and then he later increased the total to 130. But some researchers think that the real number is above 200 people.
Yeah, all in that murder castle, man. Like, no one knows for sure. Like, he would lure people in there, kill them. He would have them go down some slide or some chute into a different room where he could...
I'm never going to a haunted house again. I know that you're bread and butter, but, like, I'm done. I can't. So H Holmes ended up selling his story for $10,000 to the Hearst Corporation.
Really?
So after all this, he still gets $10,000. But I'm like, what are you going to do with $10,000?
Hopefully
Spend it on commissary?
Hopefully it gets sent to his kids.
Hopefully it got
something.
sent to the families of the people
Or that.
murdered.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Yep. May 7th, 1896, he does get hanged.
Good riddance.
Good riddance. That is the story of H Holmes. I apologize for not having a whole bunch of notes, but like I said, there's so many moving pieces and things to keep track of because he hops around a lot and dives into a lot of different things. But that's the gist of it. That's what I got.
The person we talk about next time will be a surprise.
Oh gosh, we're failing.
Because once again, we did not determine that prior to recording this episode.
Or bring it back to the Zodiac thing again. What was he?
Oh, yeah.
I meant to write it down and then I
He
didn't.
was a Taurus. And Taurus are known for being logical, stubborn, somewhat grumpy, and inclined toward materialism.
Somewhat grumpy.
Yep.
I would say he was all of those things.
Yep. So don't do anything that H Holmes, a.k.a. Herman Webster Mudgett, would do.
Yep. And so, yeah, next time it's going to be a surprise. Next time is also the 20th episode.
Holy crap.
Hey-yo.
Hey-yo.
Oh, that brought Dolan back to life.
Oh, you're still here? Hello. Welcome.
I'm here.
Did you find Murder Mike?
No, I didn't.
We're disappointed.
We're not even friends on Facebook anymore. It's unofficial now.
Wow.
Maybe his music career took off and he just felt like he was above and beyond everyone, or maybe it ended.
I don't know.
I feel like I shouldn't be talking crap on someone I don't know. So if you are
She
Murder Mike
takes
and
it
you're
back.
listening, I take it back. You're doing great.
He has bars.
Whatever you're doing.
Bars for days. Cool. All right. Murder. Thank you for listening to Healthcare Horrors, brought to you by Atlas MedStaff. Just a reminder, we are not healthcare professionals. We are just fans of true crime, talking about some of history's darkest moments in healthcare. Stay tuned, stay healthy, and stay safe.
Healthcare horrors. Murder.